earlier, and for further analysis and investigation into the report that has been given by the CIC, as mentioned earlier, Joy Doreen Bira is with the chairperson of the Constitution Implementation Commission, Charles Nyachae. Joy?
Thanks, Michael. And well, joining us in the studio this evening is the Constitution Implementation Commission chairperson, that is Charles Nyachae, who is here to enlighten us on what exactly this report was all about, and of course, what could some of the achievements be, and how far do we have to go before we can fully say that Kenya has achieved implementing the Constitution of Kenya after the promulgation that was in 2010. Well, welcome with me the CIC chairperson, Charles Nyachae. Good evening, sir. It's good to have you in the studio.
Nice to be here.
Well, we'll get straight to it. So far, it's been 1 year down the road. How far can we say, or how much can we say we have achieved, with implementing the Constitution of Kenya?
Yes, I think if we are fair to ourselves as a country, I think we've achieved a fair bit. I think we've done not a perfect job as a country in terms of implementation, but I think we've done a good job. And if I was to highlight the achievements that we've done, and when I say we, I mean we as a country, our role as CIC, of course, is to oversee the process of implementation. The actual implementation is by and large done by government, and of course the people of Kenya are an important player in the process. They own the Constitution, and public participation is a fundamental principle in the Constitution. So in terms of what we have achieved, I would say, first of all, in terms of the legislation that is required to implement the Constitution, that is contained in the 5th schedule to the Constitution, by and large those laws have been put in place and passed within the timelines that are required in the Constitution. Mm-hmm. One or two of them have issues, one or two of them are in court, but by and large that has been done. So the executive has done its bit, Parliament has done its bit, and the other implementation actors have done their bit. The other thing, of course, is the establishment of various institutions and offices that are required by the Constitution. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, for example, new organs like the Supreme Court has been established. We're talking about constitutional commissions dealing with various issues that have been set up. We're talking about independent offices like the Controller of Budget and the Auditor General. All those have been established. And we need to bear in mind that all these appointments that have been done in a new transparent and accountable process, right, which is what is required.
But can we comfortably say that this has been a transparent process in terms of implementing the Constitution?
By and large, I think the Constitution has been and continues to be implemented in a transparent and accountable process. Mm-hmm. And where this doesn't happen, that's part of our job as CIC. Where this doesn't happen, we have insisted that it happens, and we have brought this to the fore in the public arena, and where necessary, we have gone to court to ensure that the processes are done in accordance with what the Constitution requires.
But well, looking at the report so far, it also does point out some of the frustrations, like the executive not complying with implementing the law, and that could have been one of the challenges so far that the team could be facing. Could you just please highlight on that, and how exactly has the executive let down the team in terms of implementing this Constitution?
First of all, let me say this, that challenges by their nature tend to be more highlighted than successes.
Yes.
So I think the people of Kenya need to understand that by and large, all the organs, whether we are talking about the executive, whether we are talking about Parliament, yes, by and large, each of them has performed their roles as expected by the Constitution. But there have been challenges. There have been challenges on the part of the executive at the commencement of the process in terms of delays in bringing legislation for review. There have been challenges in terms of there not being policies on which the legislation is anchored. At the other end of the process, insofar as the executive is concerned, there's been the challenge of executive together with the legislator actually effecting that. And there we've seen some sluggishness, we've seen delays, and that's a challenge.
Exactly, but then how are we dealing with, knowing that each implementation has a specific timeline or a deadline for that matter? How are we dealing with some of these frustrations that the team could be facing?
Well, how we deal with them is really two ways. One is to keep insisting that this must, because at the end of the day, what the people of Kenya want is a constitution implemented, their constitution implemented. So one way is to keep insisting to those that are required to implement to do that which is they're required to do. Whether you're talking about, in most cases, you'll be talking about the executive. But as a last resort, and we've done this once or twice, is to resort to the courts. So that, for example, we are in court because we as CIC believe that the legislation that was passed pursuant on leadership and integrity, pursuant or intended to be pursuant to Article 80 of the Constitution, does not meet that threshold. Now, the Constitution provides mechanisms for determining that issue. So that's why we're in court.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when it comes to the issue of, elections, it's also stipulated in the Constitution. And looking at what's going on right now, as we head towards the March 4, 2013 elections, we seem to be behind schedule. And this as well could be maybe a part of the team's job. But then how far are we going with this? And what is the game plan, in terms of ensuring that this actually does happen and it happens at the right time that Kenyans are expecting it to happen?
Well, let me say this. The delivery of a free, fair, credible election for the people of Kenya is, of course, a constitutional imperative. But the same constitution does establish a body called the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which has the responsibility to deliver that election. Now, we have a mandate at CIC to work with all in the independent commissions in the Constitution to ensure that the Constitution is implemented. So, whereas in a very specific sense, this is within the purview of IEBC, but we do continue to have a legitimate interest in that, as indeed do the people of Kenya, and therefore we continue to urge IEBC, like we did today in the launch, to keep the people of Kenya informed as to what the processes are and what the plan is insofar as the elections are concerned, so as to allay any concerns that are there.
Using your opinion on a yes or no, do you think we're going to hold the elections on March 4, 2013?
Yes, I want to believe that we will. There's a lot of hard work to be done. There are challenges. I think we would be deceiving the people of Kenya if we did not acknowledge that there are challenges to meet that. But yes, I believe that IBC is up to the task, and I believe that they are determined to deliver on that mandate, and I believe that they will.
Well, thank you so much. We do appreciate the time. We've been speaking to the chairperson of the Constitution Implementation Commission on the report and what the achievements are so far. But, well, as it appears, it seems the frustrations seem to outweigh the successes. But we hope everything can be, achieved at the right time. But, well, thank you so much. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, back to you, Michael, in Studio A.